In the first two games after the NHL trade deadline, the Boston Bruins have found a hidden gem in Henri Jokiharju. We're going to be talking about his play and what changed with the Boston Bruins since his acquisition from the Buffalo Sabres. Very quickly, before we do get into this video, though, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We know that just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in that right spot. Hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins here. Without any further ado, I want to get into this video, touch on Henri Jokiharju just a bit, because in these first two games, we've seen a major change to not just him, but the Bruins defense as a whole. Now, this was a deal that not a lot of people thought was going to be a very influential one. This one kind of happened in the midst of the Brandon Carlo deal, in the midst of the Brad Marchand deal, and really came in as a surprise to a lot of people, and also just as an extra right-handed defenseman to fill in for Brandon Carlo. But when we look at the trade, it was Henri Jokiharju for a fourth-round pick. This is ultimately probably one of the best deals that the Bruins have made to this point, of course, in the NHL trade deadline. Now, I do have the hockey stat cards from both of his games first, and of course, tonight's game against the Ottawa Senators will be another big tell about this, and two very important wins for the Bruins if they still want a chance at making the playoffs. Now, this team, as what Mason Lovrei as well has said, that is not counted out. They're not counting this out. They're still pushing for a playoff run this season, although they may not finally, get to the point where they're getting back to the Stanley Cup finals in this manner, but it still is a very big confidence boost for this team if they do in some way get to the playoffs. Although it probably wouldn't help the draft pick, it certainly would kind of show a big confidence boost to this team that they can still win without some of the top players in this roster. But I want to pull up the stats for Henri Jokiharju this season. And of course, with the Buffalo Sabres, I don't have the Bruins on this one necessarily. But when we get into his stats a bit later, I'll kind of show how his impact really manages to work well with the Boston Bruins. He's had 6 points this year in 42 games with the Buffalo Sabres. I've seen a lot of a lot of Sabres fans, react very positively to trading Henri Jokiharju. A lot of them were very happy just to get rid of him. From what we saw in the season before, where he got 20 points in 74 games and also playing pretty well defensively on a, frankly, horrible Buffalo Sabres team. I think there's no sugarcoating it. They are a terrible team. Seeing him on that team play very well, and then also going back to the season prior, where, once again, 60 games, 13 points in the year before, 19 and 60, very, consistent on the defensive side of things, and also on the offensive side of things, is not really known for his offense. But this year, it just really seemed like a lot of Sabres fans were happy to get rid of him, and he seems to be working out very, very well for the Boston Bruins here. And I want to pull up the first one against the Florida Panthers, and going up as well, seeing a win against the Panthers, a win against the Lightning. When you're looking at these two wins here, you do see fifth on this list, Henri Jokiharju. And of course, the team offense above average is down on him in this case, but that is not what's important here. We have the ability to go out and score some goals. The offense has been pretty hot as of late, and we do look here at the defense there. The individual defense, the individual offense is even pretty high, and the team defense above average is all extremely, extremely high here when we do look at Henri Jokiharju on this list, which is something that I think is a big boost, because when you look at his defensive partner as well in Nikita Zadorov, he is at the top of this list as well, number 3. Once again, team offense above average is down quite a bit. The team defense above average is up. The team individual offense is up, but the individual defense is down on Nikita Zadorov. So I guess that's something that we don't really need to, kind of look at when we're seeing him play well with Henri Jokiharju. That's really all that matters in this instance. But comes over to the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. Once again, Henri Jokiharju here on this game, his first game with the Boston Bruins, second here on the hockey stat cards. Everything is positive here on him. The team offense above average, the team defense above average, the individual offense, individual defense, and he has put up a major surprise for the Bruins fans this season, and the Boston Bruins, I would also argue here so far. You look at Nikita Zadorov there once again as well, number 3 on this list, and it really has put a big shock into a lot of Bruins fans, that fact that they could switch this defense up. Well, necessarily in this case, Nikita Zadorov pairing with Henri Jokiharju makes them so good. And I kind of want to pull up this tweet here from Jared on Twitter, kind of discussing exactly what my thoughts were as well here. Ever since the Bruins traded for Henri Jokiharju, Nikita Zadorov has been playing great hockey. They've collectively been our best pairing in the last 2 games. We need to re-sign Jokiharju. And this is my thoughts exactly. And shout out to Jared for tweeting this, because this is really the only tweet I saw kind of discussing this, necessarily kind of in the Zadorov type of things as well. But that does come down to his contract. And Henri Jokiharju is a UFA this year. And going on a 1 year, the Buffalo Sabres re-signed him after a pretty solid season last year. $3.1 million cap hit, but at the age of 25 years old, he is a guy that really has, so far at least, in these 2 games, and of course, a lot of stuff can change until the end of the season and when the negotiations come into play, has seemed like he could be a real talent for the Boston Bruins. A right-handed defenseman, 6 foot, 201, and we know that in the NHL, right-handed defensemen are very, very tough to come by when you're looking for one that can play game in and game out. And when you get a 25-year-old one as well, especially, you need to act upon this and really even sign him to a multi-year deal. Now, whether or not this will actually come, I think it's still going to be a matter of if the Bruins have confidence in him. And at least in these 2 first games, it certainly does seem like he is a big factor for an extension coming here. And I also do feel when we look at this trade that featured Henri Jokiharju into this deal and kind of in this whole system of putting in the Boston Bruins, giving up a 4th-round pick, the Bruins would not go out and do this or agree to this if they were not at least expecting an extension or hoping for an extension. We saw from reports afterwards that the Buffalo Sabres were the ones who engaged in this trade. Henri Jokiharju requested a trade, and the Bruins, I'm not sure if they jumped on this or if the Sabres offered it to the Bruins directly, but no matter which happened and no matter which way it played out, I think this is a perfect idea for the Boston Bruins here in this instance, as well as adding to that Brandon Carlo missing spot and adding to a defense that on the right-hand side is quite shallow now, with Andrew Peeke being kind of that number 1, or previously being the number 1, with McAvoy being out, and McAvoy still being out for an uncertain amount of time. So I do think that when we do look at Henri Jokiharju as that asset, as that defenseman the Bruins have been missing, he is a big piece of what we're going to be looking at here on at least this future of the Boston Bruins defense. And I want to pull up Henri Jokiharju's stats from this season once again, kind of put it into this side of things. 25 years old, 6 foot, 203 pounds. He's not a small defenseman, pretty solid on his feet. 44 games, 6 points. Time on ice has been 16 minutes here in his this season, but has been collectively at least 20 with the Boston Bruins here in his first 2 games. And once again, comes to a point where he has been a stellar defenseman so far in these 2 games for, not even just even strength, but every asset that every time he's been on the ice here. And being able to look at what Jokiharju has done here on this defense has really been spectacular in his first 2 games. And of course, when you're looking at the right side here, it's not that great. Let's be honest. Andrew Peeke, I think, has been someone who I've been okay with there. He's still, I think, punching above his weight class, but is still playing very solid in this time. Ian Mitchell, not a guy that you'd like to have at the NHL level, but when you're kind of struggling with the right-handed defenseman, you're selling at the trade deadline. Charlie McAvoy is out. All of these things really lead up to having some assets in here that you're not going to want to have necessarily, but will have to play at the NHL level and have to compete. So Henri Jokiharju in this time with this defense has been putting up some great numbers. And of course, as I mentioned, the time on ice just about 20 minutes per game for here. So much higher than he was getting on the Buffalo Sabres. +1 in both of those games. And I do expect this to continue. I mean, this tandem of Zadorov and Jokiharju seems to be something that Zadorov is needed. And I really do hope this is the case. If this continues for Zadorov, with this contract, this play, Jokiharju, sign him to an extension, keep these 2 paired together. When you get a tandem like this on defense, it's very, very hard to try and let go of that and change it when you see it work. So I want to know what you guys think about Jokiharju in the comments below. I was always a fan of him here, and finally seeing him with the Boston Bruins, I think it's a nice, fresh sight to see, and really refreshing on the defense that was struggling a lot this season. So I'm very excited to see what the rest of this season comes with. I'm excited to see if an extension comes with it, and hopefully tonight against the Ottawa Senators, things can continue. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.